how to think for yourself and why it is so important. It is immensely important to learn to think for yourself, because if you don't know how to think for yourself, someone can present you any piece of information and tell you what to think and you'll think it. And not in the sense of look at this, think this, but in the sense of they can manipulate you. And that goes in the macro or in the micro, but I think thinking for yourself does not mean you'll never be wrong. All of your opinions are pure gold, and every single insight you have is the most intelligent, well thought out thought known to mankind. But it is more so you can rely on yourself, and you can also see the patterns within yourself of when you're wrong. Am I more wrong when I'm angry? Am I more wrong when I'm emotionally invested into something already? Then I'm less objective and I can't really look at it in the third person perspective. And you can kind of study yourself, which I think is really, really cool. So let's talk about how to learn to think for yourself. Number 1, put up theories. I love doing this. So you put up theories about life. So my theory that I'm working through and I'm looking at currently is when someone defends something really strongly and you're like, oh, that seems out of character. It's not out of character. It's not out of character. Very, very rarely do people defend, not explain, defend something that is completely without out of their character, because they can't understand it. That is the definition of out of character. It's like, this is so not them. But if they can understand it really, really well. And I've had a couple times where it's like, ooh, am I wrong here? There was once where I did think I was wrong because, okay, I'll just give you the example. And it's not a moral judgment, it's just I like to do these mind games with myself, where the divorce lawyer James Sexton talked about cheating a lot, and he always talked about it much less. He didn't villainize people, which is great, and I think sometimes you don't villainize people. I'm not saying if you don't villainize someone, you instantaneously are like them, but there was a certain amount of understanding and empathy and explanation towards cheating. And I was like, maybe I'm wrong, maybe not. And then later in an interview, he said he has had cheated. There we go. And I was like, okay, so I'm usually right about this theory. Does that mean all the time? No. And it's also about the nuance of how someone defends it, and that there's a level of defending, which is funny. Lawyer defending, he's defending things all the time, so don't take that too seriously. But in general, when it's not someone in court defending, there's a level of defending that happens where there's a tipping point, and it's like, this is you. This is something you relate to on a personal level. You know someone close to you who's done this. You've done this. It hits home. This thing hits home. Number 2, put up both sides. Listen to both sides. I do this all the time on YouTube. I'll listen to extreme feminists and I'll listen to Red Pill, not often though. And then I'll listen to it. And not because I agree with either, I agree with neither, but I think it's always interesting. And I actually get my most good thoughts, my most insightful thoughts from them. The idea of emotions. Most people want the same things out of the same emotions. They just go about getting them differently. Everyone wants love, everyone wants connection. But then the way that people think they get to that is very different. The way the red pill thinks to get to that, or the way the feminists think to get to that, is very different. The feminists, or extreme feminists, or whatever else, think it's equality, 50-50, everything's exactly, some of them. And on the red pill, it's but you have to withdraw all your money, and you have to play all these games, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. And they're all trying to come to the same goal. And there's something about, I've said this before, directional advice versus destinational advice. So directional advice is this is the destination, this is how you get to it. So the destinational advice is this is how you get to this destination. Directional advice is like, you are too left, you need to go right. You are too right, you need to go left, because you're actually supposed to get to the middle to get to this destination. And that's kind of how I think of both extremes, is they're giving advice where, like, if you are too nice, if you are too giving, if you are too this, if you are too that, then that's great advice. But if you are not, it's really misguiding, because you're not actually saying right is the answer, left is the answer. It is actually the middle, but you are going because you're too left or you're too right. Number 3, change your mind and be open to your mind changing. Even with morals, if your morals are like solid proof, which they should be, then they should be able to be challenged. Like, all of my opinions are able to be challenged. Not all of them will change, because some I'm pretty secure in them, and there would need to be a lot of new information to come out where I would change my mind. But I think being open to changing your mind means you're thinking, and you're not just holding on to belief systems out of comfort, or out of comfort. And number 4, read fiction. I think fiction explains social dynamics and psychology almost better than psychology does. Of course, they both need be there, and I want to study psychology at some point, so that's not like neither here nor there. But I do think for starter kit, it explains it much better than if you have all the fancy terms but you don't have the understanding of how it actually shows up, because how it shows up is more important in the day-to-day. And last one, be present. To process the world and have an understanding of the world and think for yourself, you need to be there. You can't be on your phone all the time, and you can't be your mind lost everywhere. You need to be present to really show up and think for yourself.